Hi, I'm Christopher, and welcome to the Cabin Boy Knits Woolcast. I had an amazing summer, and I want to share with you two big events that occurred at the end of the summer. One of them was the Twist Festival, and the other one is a retreat that I hosted as well. And I just recently recorded two episodes, one focused on Goldenrod and the other one was on mint. And I want to talk about the end product because I mixed it with other botanicals and the colors really pop. So I want to show you the end product. I've got a ton to show you this episode, so sit back, grab your favorite drink, and I'll tell you my story. I just came back from the Twist Festival a couple of weeks ago, and I had a phenomenal time. It was so great. And, I'd heard about Twist for years. It started off as a little festival, and then it just started to grow exponentially, and it's now Canada's largest festival. People kept asking me, have you been to Twist? And I said no, and so 2 years ago I decided to go. I was on my way to a vacation in Quebec, and I thought I would swing by Twist and check it out. I gave myself a couple of hours, which was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous, because there's over 140 vendors. And I didn't understand the size of it at the time, or the magnitude. And so I thought this year I'm going to spend some quality time there. I actually reached out to Twist and asked if I could teach a couple classes, and ended up teaching 4 classes. I taught natural dyeing and mosaic knitting and brioche and Christmas ornament balls. And I had a fantastic time with that as well. The students were amazing. But I want to talk about the town. So you drive into this town, and it's, the town's all in. It's Saint-André-Aveline in Quebec. And just to give you an idea of where it is, if Ottawa is here, it's the capital city of Canada, and Montreal is over here, it's a little bit up this way. So it's kind of halfway in between and just a little north. And when I say the town's all in, you drive into this little town and you look in the windows of the houses and they've got knitting showcased, and there's so much energy in this town, and everyone is really supporting the Twist Festival, which is nice. Even the food that they provided at the festival is local, so it's fantastic. All the restaurants support it. Then they've got some great restaurants there as well. So I arrive and I'm put up in this amazing home that was built in the early 1800s, and it's huge. And there are other teachers staying there as well. So I was up in a loft, came down. Every time I came down into the kitchen, there was a new instructor there, and so they kept coming out of all these rooms. So it was fantastic. It was a great sense of community, and that was definitely one of the highlights. But with respect to the festival, I want to talk about the vendors. And I want to show you some of the stuff I picked up. The vendors. There's over 140 vendors, and so that's a significant size. And the best way to describe it is, if you think about some of your favorite vendors and and they carry some great yarn, and you mix that with some fantastic artisans and put them together, and that's what you get at Twist. It's got this feel of artistry along with great quality wool. So you've got, for example, there was a vendor there who was repurposing kilts and making leather bags and using the quilt material as well. It was fantastic. It was just beautiful. I've never seen anything like that before. There were all kinds of things like that there, along with indie dyers. There weren't too many big name dyers, that's part of the charm, I think, of it. So I loved it. It was great. Lots of natural dyers as well, and some farms, and I'll get into those as I show you the goods and the stuff I picked up. But I had a fantastic time. Teaching was great. The students were fantastic. I'm there to teach them. However, they definitely taught me as well, because it's very French, and my French is not great. Something that I'll be working on. I was given a list of attendees, and I'd say probably 80% francophones, 20% anglophones. And so I printed up the course material accordingly. So I get to the class and say, how many people want English? And everyone puts their hand up. And I said, well, I've only got 20% of the material is English. So, but they basically told me, they said, look, when we read patterns, we're reading them in English. So the patterns, so we're used to reading from that perspective. So I know next time when I teach in Quebec, I will be bringing more English patterns and fewer in French. I'll bring both, obviously. But that was something that I didn't even think about. But the class was great, very supportive. I had an interpreter with me as well to help out with some of the struggles with language, but I never had any problems with that. So it was great. Class was completely up for it, and a bunch of the students had already posted some of the things that they've made out of the class on Instagram. So students, thank you very much for that. That was fantastic, and you really made my trip fantastic at the festival. So let's get into the vendors. The vendors were 140 plus and in several buildings. One of the things I love about this festival is when you go to the gates to come in, you have to go through a tent. And the tent is housed with emerging artisans. And so you've got these people new to the business, and I'm sure they've never seen anything to this magnitude, because when you think about it, you're starting out and you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of people walking through your booth. So it's got to be pretty amazing, and what a phenomenal experience. There's two I wanted to talk about in particular, and one of them is, I actually knew about this guy before. I've been hearing things about Singulier in Montreal, and so I was interested in checking out his stuff, and I really like the colors. I spent a lot of time. Actually, I tried to get into his booth several times, and it was packed. And so it was the last day that I was there. I actually elbowed my way in and spent quite a lot of time looking to see what he was all about and to understand where he was coming from and to check out the yarn. This is merino nylon, and I really like the colors that he used in the dyeing. He's definitely going to have a huge career ahead of him. He's doing quite well right now. So it was great chatting with Philippe, and super nice guy, but he's definitely got, he's one to watch for. So I will put a link to his website as well, but you definitely should check this out. Another vendor in the tent that I was really excited to see is Dahlia Milan, and she is from Quebec, and she is a natural dyer. Her textiles are absolutely gorgeous, and she forages for her own botanicals, and she also sources locally where she can. And so I was really excited to talk to her about her dyeing, and also to be able to pick up some stuff that isn't readily available necessarily in my area. One of them is indigo. I am growing indigo in the back, but it's also nice to see other people grow it, and so I will be dyeing with this indigo later on. But it's quite nice. I bought a fair bit from her on this. The other one is gypsy wort, and gypsy wort is also going to be great because I don't have that in my dye garden. And then wormwood is also here, and I'll be dyeing with that later on in the winter. So these are my winter dyeing things because they're already dried, so I will put them on a shelf. And in the winter time, when I am checking my cupboards to see what I want to dye, I will be coming back to this. So really excited about that. Then I went into the big building, and the big building had some, as I say, some phenomenal vendors, and some familiar faces as well. One of them that I really was excited about, and I don't know how I missed this on the list, because I always go through a list to check and see who is going to be there. But Prado de Lana, which translates to wool meadow, was there, and I love their yarn so much. I think I first happened upon them at Rhinebeck. It was either Rhinebeck or in New York. I can't remember. But they have heritage breeds, Lincoln long wools, which are great. So they've got you know, beautiful sheep and a beautiful product, and they're located in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. I think they just recently moved there, and they're opening a store up after Rhinebeck is over, because Rhinebeck's a huge deal. I'm sure it's a lot to prepare for as well. So I'm really happy with this. They also have Romney and CVM as well. So check them out. They're great, terrific, and super nice people. So I mentioned that I was staying in a fantastic house from the 1800s. And so some of my favorite people were there. But the owner of Blue Pousserie was there, and I think she was teaching a class the first day. But I did talk to her in her booth later on, and I love her stuff. She dyes with mushrooms and she dyes with botanicals, and she's one of my favorite natural dyers out of Canada. And so, you know, I think this trip was also about pushing my limits, or stepping out of my comfort zone. I wouldn't normally buy mohair in this colorway, but I really liked it. I thought the dye job was beautiful. I think she's used cochineal, and I can't remember what she used in the gray. I'll have to send her a note on that. But I thought she did a terrific job. So I do have something in mind for this. It feels beautiful, and really happy. So I always looked at these in vendors' booths and thought, who buys these? Because I would think that, you know, it always reminded me of cross stitch or other things, and I wasn't sure what they'd be used for until I started knitting Christmas ornaments. So these are perfect. They're the perfect size for it, and you can grab any combination of colors, and you'll get the right amount. So I was really happy to see this as well. So I picked these up from her booth, but really happy that she was there. And she's also a phenomenal dyer, and it'll be interesting to see her business grow as well. I met a new natural dyer, and one that I'd never seen before, and it's from Renard and Fleur. And again, you know, I was attracted to this skein because it's soft, and it's mohair and Dorset. And I haven't had a skein with mohair and Dorset before, but it's a really fantastic combination. The texture of it is I wouldn't say it's gritty, but it's very interesting in a fantastic way. And also I was looking at the colorway, and again this must have been my pink weekend, but I was looking at the colorway, and this has lac in it and logwood and cochineal. And when I'm dyeing and I get black spots or darker spots like this, I'm not pleased. I usually try to I'll fix it or alter the dye bath. But I've seen it in more and more skeins and others, and so I thought, you know what, I definitely love the feel of this yarn, and what I'm going to do is knit it up and see. I wouldn't normally buy a skein like this again, but I was really interested in the texture, and the color's great as well, and it'll be really interesting to see how this knits up. So I'm looking forward to that. This skein inspired me. Or spoke to me for sure. The next one is, I can't hold this yarn and not smile. It is absolutely fantastic. It's from Cottage Craft Angora, and I walked into the booth, and one of the owners tossed the skein to me and said, "Feel this," and I almost dropped to the floor. It's incredible. It's absolutely incredible, and so. I wish I had Touch of Vision on here, because I want you guys to feel it. It's fantastic, but it has Kiviot in it, and also merino wool and cashmere and silk. So how much better does life get than this? It's absolutely fantastic. And Kiviot, he also gave me a chunk of this, and it's light Kiviot. For those of you who haven't ever felt it before, it comes from the musk oxen, and what they do is they basically, in order to extract this, they get a long comb, and they will brush it out of the musk oxen, and it comes right in from the skin and out. And so they'll take that off, and that's how they pull it. You can also, if you're up north and north, and you see the bushes, you'll see some of this on the bushes that they've walked, the musk oxen have grazed through. But it feels like air. It is so soft, and it's so warm, and it's so beautiful, and it's also so expensive. It's really expensive. So if you can't afford to buy a skein of this, and again, this is as good as it gets. It's absolutely stunning. What you can do is look for yarn that has Kiviot in it, and that can bring along with other fibers, and that can bring the price point down. But this is heaven. This is absolutely heaven. And not only is it heaven, it's from one of my favorite farms. They're located in Quebec, and they're fantastic. They've got Shetland wool as well, and you definitely need to check out this website, and you need to get your hands on one of these. It's fantastic. I'm starting to sound like an infomercial now, but I absolutely love this yarn. It's definitely on the top of one of my favorites, and this color is called Northern Glacier. So what I need to do is get my hands on this and dye some as well. So I absolutely love this. So that definitely made me happy, and this made me happy. So the vendors were phenomenal. Just to add to the excitement of the whole trip, they also had Wool Olympics, and I was interviewed, and that was a lot of fun too, by a fantastic journalist named Emily. I will put a link to that. I had a lot of fun. That was her first English interview, and she did a phenomenal job. She's also an interviewer for the CBC as well, so she's very, very professional, and I was really happy with the way that the interview went, and that she asked great questions. So it was, all in all, I thought it was phenomenal. Definitely want to go back, and I'd strongly encourage people to spend the weekend and head up to Quebec and check out the festival. The second big event I want to talk about is the Men's Knitting Retreat. It was the year 2 for it, and it was fantastic. I don't think I could possibly pull together a better group of guys. Everyone got along with each other, and it was so easy to host because the guys were just great. They came from all over the place. They came from Seattle, Colorado, all over the United States, and in Ontario as well. And it sold out. So I kept it. I moved it up, bumped it up to 14 people, and that was enough. I think that's, for this space, that was the right amount. But it was fantastic. Tons of laughing and sharing stories and talking about best practices and stuff like that. So it was great. The Indigo workshop was fun. The field trip was great. We went to Amazing Grays Alpacas, which is about 10 minutes north of here, and Marge and her husband really helped us, educate us on alpacas, and in an entertaining way, and then also opened up their doors to their store, and they've had a lot of great product as well, so that was a lot of fun. Then we went down to Great Heron Yarn Shop in Belleville, and Karen, it was her birthday, so there's birthday cake, and Karen always goes all out for the Men's Knitting Retreat, and she made little stitch markers for everyone, and really pulled out all the stops for this. Really made us feel welcome. So it was fantastic. And then we headed down to Lake Ontario, and before that we also went to the coffee shop, the Break Room. The Break Room is a coffee shop and bike shop, and the guys who own that have been incredibly supportive, and they've provided coffee for the Men's Knitting Retreat. So I wanted to show thank you and bring the guys there, and so we had coffee before we headed down to Lake Ontario, and we went to a cider house and had beautiful view of Lake Ontario. And for me, what was important was this was an outside venue, and it gets tons of traffic through it, especially in the summertime, and I wanted to be very visible. So I thought it was great to have 14 guys sitting out all knitting. And it definitely generated a lot of conversation amongst the people that were there. The owner came out to chat with us. The food was fantastic. Site was fantastic, and we were definitely present in Prince Edward County. So that was a lot of fun. But I want to give a special thanks to the sponsors. And one of them is Timber Yarns. Timber Yarns is one of my favorite yarn companies, and a very, very prominent dyer in Canada. She's fantastic. So she came forward and donated some yarn. Robbie Lachlan, a designer in Toronto, is also contributed a book, which I think a lot of people know Robbie already, and so that was incredibly generous of him. We had a crash. Somebody crashed the men's event, and that was Dolphina Collective, and she made 3 bags. I have one of them that I'll show you now, but she had 3 bags, 3 distinct types of bags designed for the men's knitting retreat, and she showed up to give them to us. And it was funny because she knew the event was starting on Thursday, and I said, "Are the bags ready? I'll come and pick them up, or you can drop them off." And so I noticed that the timing kept moving into when the men's knitting retreat was going to be here, and so she actually hand delivered them. Showed up, and all the guys were around the pool, and I figured out, the penny dropped for me when I saw the reaction of when she met Papa Bear Bags, and she was quite happy about it. But it was a lot of fun to see the excitement in her face when she met him. But her product is incredible, and so she basically made these knitting bags, and again, there's 3 of them, specific ones for the men's knitting retreat. Go on her website and check them out. She's very talented, and their canvas, really, really nice, and their Papa Bear Bag approved as well. He inspected them and gave it a thumbs up. But the inside is terrific and lined, and so I use these. These are my project bags that I use. I think they're fantastic. The other sponsor I want to talk about is, and I know I've talked about Knitting Wolf Luxury Yarns before, but I reached out and said, would you be interested in sponsoring, being one of the sponsors of the men's knitting retreat? And he came back with a resounding yes. Not only that, he made a specific colorway for the men's knitting retreat, and it's called Cabin Boy Retreat 2019. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's stunning. I gave him, he asked me a couple questions, and then he went off and dyed it. And not only did he provide the yarn, but he provided the yarn for every attendee. And wait till I tell you this. So it was basically silk, alpaca, and yak. And I just, are you kidding me? I opened this box and could not believe that how generous he is. The time that he took to dye this. And he knows he's one of my favorite dyers, but I was incredibly touched by all the work that he did, and not only that, the yarn that he selected as well. So again, he's one of my favorite dyers. Check him out. He's also exploding right now. He's incredibly popular, and more people are finding and buying his yarn. So check out his website. But I was incredibly touched. Last thing I wanted to mention about the men's knitting retreat is this baby right here. This is flannel. So when have you ever had a project bag that's flannel? And this is Papa Bear Bags made it for me, and I was incredibly touched by this. And I carry it everywhere. It's kind of like because it's so soft and it feels great, and it's incredibly well made. His bags are phenomenal. He's also one of the greatest knitters I've ever seen. He brought a sweater for show and tell, and just blew everybody away. And I first saw him on, I think it was on the Christy Glass show, and he was showing another sweater that won a state fair. But what a phenomenal knitter he is, and what a phenomenal guy. So thank you again, Papa Bear Bags, for this. I absolutely love it, and I know he's taking orders as well. So check out his website. But incredibly happy and thrilled that I got that. So I mentioned that I've been doing a lot of dyeing. The last couple episodes, I did one on Goldenrod. The Goldenrod is at its peak and is absolutely beautiful. And when when I'm dyeing with goldenrod, I like to dye it the same day or shortly after I pick it, because, and when I say shortly, I mean I'm talking about hours afterwards, because I want to grab that yellow and pull as much of that yellow out as possible. And so I've done, I want to show you a couple things. So when you look at the gold here, that's the kind of gold that I was able to pull from the goldenrod. It was a nice vibrant yellow. And I mixed this with indigo. So I've got two different types in different dye baths. And so this is blue-faced luster and silk, so that also shows off the yarn quite well. But the goldenrod, really excited about that, because it not only looks great on its own, but I can use it and dye over it with other colors. Here are two examples of that. So I did one of them. This one was dyed with goldenrod firstly, and then I dyed it with indigo on top. This one was indigo first, and then the goldenrod secondly. So I was really happy with the colors that I was able to pull from this. And then the mint. The mint, depends on the lighting. I'm not sure if you can see the green hues, but when you're outside, it looks gray. When the sun hits it, it picks up green, and it's a really nice color. So this was with the mint that I pulled out of my garden, and also some iron. And I made the iron using 2/3 water and 1/3 vinegar, and threw some old rusty nails in and let it sit for about 6 weeks. So very happy with that. This is Brazil wood and mint, and I was really happy with the color that I was able to pull from this as well. So that was it for my dyeing, and I've been doing a ton of it this week too. It feels like a mad rush, because the goldenrod's out there. I want to grab it as soon as I can. What I'll do with the stuff that I'm not able to dye right away is I'll store it, let it hang up for a few weeks, and that will carry me through the winter as well. So this is a great time of the year. There's so many wonderful things to dye with. So this is my happy season. Well, all my seasons are happy seasons, but this one I get really excited about. So with respect to what's making me happy these days, I was at an antique show, and whenever I go to antique shows, I look for a couple of things, usually knitting related, but I also love looking at knitting patterns. And I happened upon the Nova Scotian double knitting patterns by Janetta Dexter. And it's wonderful. I'll just read a little bit of it. These patterns are not new. It seems probable that most of them were brought by our ancestors from Great Britain, France, and Germany. They knit them in homespun wool in natural shades of black, white, and gray, or in yarns dyed in soft colors with natural dyes. And I thought this was great. One of the things I love about it is that it's definitely a piece of Canadian history. I did research her on the internet afterwards, and she had a book out called Traditional Nova Scotia Double Knitting Patterns. The interesting thing, though, our understanding of double knitting is different than it was back here. What she's talking about is two-color knitting or farrow knitting. But it's really interesting. It takes me back in time. And so I love looking at this. I'll definitely be knitting some of or using some of the patterns in this book for some of my knitting projects. So I hope everyone has had a great summer, and I hope everyone's going to have a great week, and I look forward to talking to you in my next episode. So take care.